My name is Celeste Murphy, and I am the Deputy Chief over Field Operations for the Atlanta Police Department. I've been on the department for about 23 years now, originally from New York. And when I moved here, I started out with state corrections and then moved on to the police department and been here ever since. Well, I'm over field operations, which is our largest division in the respect of the officers on the department. So we handle the 911 calls. We also house the Apex unit, which is our street level violent crime unit. And we also have the general detectives that handle some more of your property crimes and lesser violent crimes. So in all, there's approximately a little bit over 900 employees that are under my command. Well, actually, it's kind of funny. I wanted to be a police officer from actually watching TV, looking at cops and NY City Blue and all of that stuff. And I just, got mesmerized by just seeing it wasn't even about the hype over some of the things that they were doing. It really boiled down to some of the issues of dealing with people that are the most vulnerable in our communities, and developed somewhat of a passion that, transcended itself in my career. One of the places that I work, Special Victims Unit, kind of tapped into why I originally, thought about being a police officer, was to help people, and those are your most vulnerable victims. One of my most enriching positions on this department, when I see kids getting abused, or just, you have runaway children that just honestly, people don't see what the root cause of why they run away, tapping into that. And of course, adult crimes that where victims maybe don't have a voice, and the police department is the voice for them. So working in a predominantly male field, especially as a black female, in the early stages of course, 20-something years ago, it was a lot more challenging than it is now. The Atlanta Police Department has become extremely progressive through the years, in the course of my career anyway. And, so it's less challenging now, but of course, there's always the pressure of being a female on a department that's majority men. You especially being black female, you're always raised that you have to do better, you have to do more, you have to be ahead of the game all the time. And, it just depends on that person's perspective. Are you, what's your reasoning behind why you're doing that? And quite honestly, I tell people all the time, I'm always just in competition with myself. I don't compete against anybody else. So, I try to just keep driving and pushing, because that's how I was raised. I've always been raised that way, and that's just how I react. I just always try to, better myself. But at the same time, I always try to use that same drive and instill it in other people on the department. Not necessarily females, but of course, females are my passion, because I know that sometimes their voices are silenced. So, or they may not feel as confident sometimes, or just maybe feel overshadowed being in a department that's mostly male. So, of course, I'll try to make sure that I reach out to the females, especially, and guide them in some of the things that they have to face. But yeah, it can be challenging with a bunch of men. But I do feel like the department is so diverse, so progressive and open-minded now, that you really don't have to use that as a handicap anymore. You really could fight for what you want to be on this department. I remember when I first looked at the George Floyd video, I didn't look at it when it first came out, because there's just been so many videos, but then I felt compelled to look at it, because, with each incident that we see, it taps into you in a different way, and to look for ways to maybe how could we do better as a department? How can I do better as an officer? So when I did look at it, I honestly just, it just crumbled me inside. I just literally, I forced myself to look at the entire video till the end, and it just was like watching somebody's life before you slip. I've never seen anybody literally die in front of my eyes like that. Well, let me say this. I've seen people die, but I've never seen someone where I'm screaming out, please stop, like as if I know, I knew it was going to happen, but I just kept wishing he would just get off of his neck. Literally watching this man's life come out of him. It was devastating. It was horrible. It made me angry, it made me sad, brought back memories. I too, people forget that on the police department, as a black officer, we were black before we came on the department. So we've seen some of the things that people are experiencing, and it's also one of the reasons why a lot of us get on the department, because we want to be a part of the change. And that's just what I've always kept in the back of my mind when I came on the department. It was always about helping people. I too have a family member who died in custody of the police department in New York, and it was devastating to bring back that memory. I feel like some of the families, we went through the same things those families go through. We didn't get answers. It's hard and it's challenging because, your family says one thing, so, you side with that. But then your other family that you work with, those people as well, their heart. You see some of the things that are happening now since the protests. I look at video, I see some of my own officers that were assaulted, cursed at, things thrown at them. And I know these officers, a lot of them I know personally, so it's not about, thinking of officer in a figurative sense. These are people that I actually do know and have been working with for years. So to see them abused, it was so hurtful. It was just times that I would look at video, even at home, that I had to, for investigation purposes. And it was very, very hard. It's hard to come to work and motivate people to continue to work in these circumstances, because you're hurting just as much as they are inside, but you have to be strong so that they see something, that they can latch onto to keep going. So during the protests, watching the things that were being said and done to the officers was difficult. Because you have to every day send them right back out to face the same scrutiny and pressure and the fears that they, have to endure. The fears that they have to endure. It's tough because as much as, people may feel as though, well, you're not there every day. I was out there on certain days. So I wanted to experience and see what they were going through, because you have to see it for yourself in order to be able to empathize. And you have to see it for yourself because you want them to know that I'm here with you and I understand it. I'm not sitting in a box somewhere watching it from a camera. I'm here with you as well. But it's tough to try to get people to stay motivated, to literally just go out to be abused every day, possibly injured and hurt. And then it be held against them, any action that they do at this point. Because even if it's, something that I had officers that were hurt trying to help people that were in the protest. They were, assaulted. How do you keep people going when, you're in a position where, you've got to keep public safety in mind, but you also have to keep, the fears and the motivation of your officers in mind as well. This job is a career, it's a profession, and it takes more than coming in, punching a clock, and getting in your car and answering 911 calls. It takes compassion. It takes sometimes you're helping people when they don't even want to help themselves. You really have to tap into your heart to do this job. And a bad police officer just doesn't get it, no matter what there's not training. There's not discipline. There's nothing that you could put into a bad cop to change that. So we weed them out, and that's one of the things that I think our department is good about. We're reactive to disciplining and pruning out bad cops. Since the protests have sort of become less violent and manageable, because we still deal with protests. Maybe not every day, but definitely every other day, several days a week, we deal with protests as well. And we don't mind protests because, that's what Atlanta is known for, and that's actually what we're good at. And protests, of course, generate change. But when they're violent, it creates a pressure on the department. And during that time, we did see a dip in morale. And since things have lightened up, we're still in tune with the officers. We're still letting them ask questions. We're going out and seeing them, talking to them, meeting with them as much as we can. And we're starting to notice that, they're starting to sort of, kind of trust that, we're going to get through this and we're going to get over this. So it's still a work in progress, but I think that we're moving in a good direction with it. When I hear people talk about defund the police, I understand exactly what they're talking about. And, maybe, and there's some people who mean the very word that they intend it to be, defunding, and then there's people who want to use that as symbolism for what they really want. And I get that as well. Do I believe that we can always change the department? Of course, because, in any aspect of life, there's always some type of change and evolution that's needed, and the police department has to change with those times, with the communities, how they change. We've got to follow. We've got to keep up with it. So one of the things that even I have evolved since the protest, and one of the things that I've learned about myself is that it's not even about the fact that I have a good heart and what I came to the job to do. People that don't know me don't know that. They just see me as this person that wears this badge, and the symbolism behind with which they don't like. And so I get that. But I've even learned for myself that I guess the change needs to be not only just hearing what people are saying and engaging in the community, because I love being in the community all the time. The community, a lot of the community knows me and they know my heart, but am I really, really speaking the same language as them? And I realized through this process that a lot of the things that I may be saying, they just don't understand it because our jargon is different. So that's, these are little things, but these are things that matter. Words matter and phrasing matters. So even I've evolved through all of this, and I realize now, oh yeah, okay, I get how they're seeing what we're doing and saying. We're both on the same, we're both we both have the same wants and position in this whole thing, but we just need to find out a way to communicate the right way with each other. It's not just about talking and listening. It's really about the language. And so one of the things that I've looked to do with my division is to make sure that the officers are going back to getting into meetings, community meetings, making sure that they're hearing, one-on-one from, not just from what I'm telling them, this is what we need to do in these areas. I need them to go to the community meetings, hear what the people are seeing, what they need in their neighborhoods. It's not about what I think they need in their neighborhoods. It's about what they want in their neighborhoods, so that we're kind of at a middle ground and hearing each other. And because I live in Atlanta myself, so it's important to me what happens to Atlanta. My children live in Atlanta, so I want them to have a positive experience in Atlanta. I'm a single mom. I have 4 sons, and it's challenging, because if you are a single mom in any profession, it's going to be challenging. Specifically for this profession, because I have to give so much to the community. Sometimes I do feel a little bit guilty, because I have to maybe sometimes my family's shorted. I compensate as much as I can, of course. I don't think they feel neglected, but it's a very demanding job. So it taxes your family, and I keep that in mind for my officers that are out there, because it's affecting me, and I know it affects them. With the protests going on recently, it actually brought to light issues within my own household. I have 2 adult sons, and I have 2 middle school sons. And, when you're so wrapped up in what's going on at work, and you're not realizing, wow, my family has opinions on this as well. So it brought on a whole lot of uncomfortable conversations, even at home. I have one son who is, grew up, well, all of my sons grew up on the police department, I'll say, because I've been on the police department their entire lives. So their only experiences have been from what I would consider my view of the police. My one son in particular, one of my sons is in college. He's very, very strong negative feelings about what he's seeing on social media and in the news about what's going on with negative incidences surrounding the police. And it's a debate that we just have agreed that we're not going to agree on. And it was sort of shocking to me, and at the same time, it's challenging. It hurts because I had no idea, and it hurts that he has that view, and even in talking with him, he knows how I am about the police, but he knows how I am in the community, but he is just dead set against what the police stand for. So we have heavy debates. We'll just continue the conversations and the debates, and hopefully we'll be the example of what I expect the community to come together with the police department, and we make change together as opposed to separately. So I would actually love to see, where we get to a point where we're working well with the community, hearing each other's concerns, needs, and even their complaints, because we learn from all of that. But what I really like to see is to just see how that transitioned into some of the people that we reach out to, and we're able to meet at a common ground, and they come onto the police department. Those are the type of people that would be awesome to work with. Not just work with in a police community situation, but have some of them come on, and that's being a part of the change. The Atlanta Police Department is always hiring, and we're looking for people that are dedicated, have compassion, empathetic to the citizens of our city and our department. So if this is you, then join our team.